नहमदहु व नसल्ली व नसल्लिम अला रसूलिहिल करीम अम्मा बअद फ़अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम क़द जाअकुम मिनल्लाहि नूरुन व किताबुम मुबीन सदक़ल्लाहुल अज़ीम सल्लल्लाहु अलन नबिय्यिल उम्मी व आलिहि सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम सलातो व सलामुन अलैका या रसूलल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु तआला अलैहि वसल्लम. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our cherisher and our sustainer, and choices of durood and salami upon his beloved, our master, arwahuna fida, Sayyidina Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, we are in the blessed month of the Holy Quran, the month in which the Holy Quran was revealed from the Lawh Mahfuz onto the first sky, and it is a month in which in every corner of the world people try to increase their recitation and increase reciting the Holy Quran, making tilawat. But together with reciting the Holy Quran, it is important that we try to understand the Holy Quran. We try to understand the message of the Holy Quran. Remember, this is our constitution. This is that book which shows us how to lead our lives, how to be successful in this dunya, how to be successful in the hereafter. Everything we need to know is in this kitab. So it is important that we try to understand the message of the Holy Quran together with the recitation of the Holy Quran. But when it comes to understanding the Holy Quran, it is important that we follow the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran. Because today we find there are many new so-called scholars that crop up in each era that come up with their own interpretation of the Holy Quran, that come up with their own meanings of the Holy Quran, who mislead the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And especially when we look at the age of social media today, everywhere you turn, if you Google anything with regard to the Holy Quran, you'll get tons of different interpretations of one verse of the Holy Quran. And most of them, or many of them, will lead you astray. So it is important that we understand, with such a whole host of interpretations and meanings and understandings of the Holy Quran out there, how do we understand the true meaning of the Holy Quran? How do we come to the conclusion that yes, this is what Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam explained to the Sahaba Ikram. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He revealed this verse to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, this is what was meant by it. How do we get that understanding of the Holy Quran? And Huzur Hujjatul Islam, Imam Hamid Raza Khan rahmatullah alayhi, the eldest son of Huzur Sayyidi Ala Hazrat radiyallahu ta'ala an, he gave us a very logical and simple way of coming to the correct understanding of the Holy Quran. And he came to this logical explanation from the Holy Quran itself. And I will quote to you the verses that Huzur Hujjatul Islam quotes in this introduction preamble of his that he wrote to one of the fatwa of Sayyidi Ala Hazrat against the Qadianis. And he very beautifully makes us understand how to understand the Holy Quran. Who do we go to understand the Holy Quran? So first he quotes the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنَزَّلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ تِبْيَانًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we have sent down this Quran upon you, which is a clear explanation of all things. So the Holy Quran consists of everything with regard to this entire world. With regard to the knowledge of everything is contained in the Holy Quran. But not everybody can extract that knowledge. So he quotes the next verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah 29 verse 43, وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. So first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that everything is explained in the Holy Quran. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and none except the knowledgeable understand it. Subhanallah. So now there's already an exclusion. Even though everything is contained in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala excludes who can extract this, who can understand. He says, none except the knowledgeable can understand it. That means there are a specific group of people who have the actual and the true and correct knowledge of the Holy Quran. So now we need to understand, how do we get this knowledge from them? Who are these people? So then he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, in Surah 16 verse 43, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. O people, ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. So now there's two groups of people that have been distinguished in the Holy Quran. One is the group who know the knowledge, who have the knowledge of the Holy Quran, who understand its true meaning, who understand its true interpretation. And then there's the other group about whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O people, if you do not know, ask those who know. So now obviously we are amongst those who don't know. So we want to ask those who know to make us understand the Holy Quran. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah 16 verse 44, He says, وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, and O beloved Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, we have sent down this Quran towards you so that you may explain to mankind what has been revealed towards them. So the one who understands the Holy Quran best and the most is Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. The Holy Quran itself mentions us, that the Holy Quran was revealed unto Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam so that he can explain to mankind what is meant in the Holy Quran. Meaning the first and foremost teacher of the Holy Quran is Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. The one who has the most comprehensive knowledge of the Holy Quran is Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And who were the first students of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam? The Sahaba Ikram. Who were the students of the Sahaba Ikram? The Tabi'een. Who were the students of the Tabi'een? The Taba Tabi'een. And who were the students of the Taba Tabi'een? The pious predecessors, the awliya Allah, the scholars throughout the time in each era, through whom the message of the Holy Quran descended generation to generation till this era, and it will continue till the Day of Judgment. So now that Huzur Hujjatul Islam has explained to us the chain, now how do we understand which is this chain? In this day and age, in this era, how do we understand the correct meaning of the Holy Quran? If you look at any person who interprets the Holy Quran, anyone who gives you a meaning of the Holy Quran, if you take that meaning, that interpretation, and you track that belief, that meaning, that interpretation over the last 1400 years, you should find that meaning, that interpretation to be continuous from that person in this day and age, going right up to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Then you know that this interpretation is correct. If you find that that interpretation goes and stops somewhere 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, meaning that is when it started, then you know this is a deviant interpretation of the Holy Quran. And this is what you find with the interpretation of many of the Deobandis, the Wahhabis, etc., that today mislead many people with their misinterpretation of the Holy Quran. In the Deobandis, in their tafsirs of the Holy Quran, their interpretation, they have even mentioned, ma'azallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have prior knowledge of what a servant is going to do. Ma'azallah, summa ma'azallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is all-knowing, whose knowledge is infinite, the Deobandis say that even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have prior knowledge of what we are going to do. Only after we do it, then He comes to know. Ma'azallah. Now if you try and track this back, you will find that it only starts when the Najdis and Deobandis started. you cannot trace this belief and this interpretation of the Holy Quran going back to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. Then you know this is a deviant interpretation. And when you take, for example, the interpretation, the meaning of the Holy Quran given to us by Sayyidi Ala Hazrat radiyallahu ta'ala an, you can take every verse of his interpretation and you can track that verse, that meaning, that interpretation all the way back to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. Why? Because he has not come up with any new meaning. The meaning that he has given us is basically what has come down from Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, from the Sahaba Ikram, our pious predecessors, through the scholars of the time of each generation to our generation. So this is how we come to understand the true meaning of the Holy Quran. And this is why it is important, especially in this day and age, that we need to stick to the interpretation, to the meaning, to the understanding of the Holy Quran as expounded by Sayyidi Ala Hazrat radiyallahu ta'ala. Inshallah, we will remain on the path of haqq, the path of truth. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in another verse of the Holy Quran, again this is for us to understand the relationship between the Holy Quran and Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Remember, Huzur alayhi salam, he was the walking Quran, as mentioned by Sayyidah Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Huzur alayhi salam, he is a manifestation of the Holy Quran. And the Holy Quran is a manifestation of the maqam of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. If you truly look at it, every verse of the Holy Quran is a praise of Huzur alayhi salam, is a manifestation of the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, قَدْ جَاءَكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ نُورٌ وَكِتَابٌ مُبِينٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, undoubtedly, there has come to you from Allah a nur, a light, and a luminous book. Now, why is nur, why is light mentioned here together with book? And Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Naimi rahmatullahi beautifully explains why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions these two things together in this verse. Why nur and book together? And nur, we know, refers to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala from the Mufassirin Ikram. And the book obviously refers to the Holy Quran. So why is Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala and the Holy Quran mentioned together here? And Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Naimi rahmatullahi mentions that no book can be recited in darkness. If you want to read any book, you have to have light. You have to have external light so that you can see and read the book. And he says that Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, he is the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His heart is filled with the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to understand the Holy Quran, then you need the nur of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam to understand the Holy Quran. Subhanallah. When we need to see and read a book, we need its extrinsic light. We need an extrinsic factor that allows us to see and read the book. But Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, he is that intrinsic factor without which we cannot understand the Holy Quran. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran to his beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, this book has been revealed to you and you explain to mankind. Why? Because we need the wisdom of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We need the nur of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, without which we will be unable to understand the Holy Quran. And this is why in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions with regard to the Holy Quran and the wisdom of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, he mentions, وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ وَكَانَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ عَظِيمًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says again, for us to understand the relationship between Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam and the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and Allah has revealed to you the book and wisdom and taught you what you did not know. And great is the grace of Allah upon you. Now the Mufassirun Ikram have mentioned here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions book and wisdom, both that have been revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. The book refers to the verses of the Holy Quran that are the zahir revelations to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. And the wisdom here refers to the hadith of Huzur alayhi salam, which is the khafi, the hidden revelations of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. Both of them are revelations from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Holy Quran and the hadith. One is hidden and one is manifest. One is zahir. The Holy Quran is zahir, and the hadith, those are the hidden revelations to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. And without the hadith, we cannot truly understand the Holy Quran. Why? Because the hadith gives us the understanding and the wisdom of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, which was taught to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the greatest teacher of the Holy Quran. This is why you find that, for example, in the Holy Quran, you find the permissibility of sajda-e ta'zimi, the prostration out of respect. Now it is mentioned in the Holy Quran, but the hadith annuls this. Why? Because this was permitted in the previous ummahs of Rasulullah, of the previous ummahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the previous ummahs that existed, the nations. But in this ummah, it is forbidden for us to do a sajda-e ta'zimi, a sajda of respect. So again, even though the Holy Quran mentions the permissibility of this, Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam explained that for us it is impermissible. In the same way, the Holy Quran mentions how a person who passes away, then whatever his inheritance is, it is distributed amongst his inheritors. However, in the hadith we learn that when it comes to the prophets, neither do they take the inheritance of their family members, and neither can their family members take the inheritance of the prophets. So you can see how it is so critical for us to take the teachings and the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam to understand the Holy Quran. This is why don't go to the social media and just take any interpretation of the Holy Quran if you do not understand what the background of that scholar is, what the background of that interpretation is. We have our ulama-ikram, consult our ulama-ikram, consult the righteous Sunni Sahih al-Aqidah ulama-ikram, and they will teach you what is the correct understanding of the Holy Quran. They will teach you the correct interpretation, the correct meanings of the Holy Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all true understanding of the Holy Quran and grant us true love for Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين والمؤمنات إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. جزاكم الله.